You're tuned in to the Mind of an Entrepreneur show with your host, myself, Sajdah Wendy Muhammad. I am a multi-million-dollar business developer. I have developed business and real estate around the world, and I want to share with you my mental strategies, my technical strategies, and how I made it in the world of business. So I don't teach theory. I tell you about my life and introduce you to people who can also share with you what they've done to become successful. This is a practical show. This ain't a theory show. You don't want to miss it. So stay tuned.
O Allah, guide me among those whom Thou hast guided aright, and preserve me among those whom Thou hast preserved, and befriend me among those whom Thou hast befriended. Bless me in whatsoever Thou dost grant me, and deliver me from the evil of what Thou hast judged. Surely Thou judges, and none can judge against Thee, and he whom Thou befriendest is not disgraced. Blessed art Thou, O Lord, and exalted be Thee above what they set up besides Thee. I bear witness, nothing deserves to be served besides Thee, and I bear witness that Muhammad is Thy servant and apostle. Amen.
You belong to yourself. You're an independent people, created from the nation of free people.
Yes, sir.
You don't need to go nowhere but to yourself.
Yes, sir.
There will be a great separation.
Yes, sir.
So I said, it is on now.
College is meant to prepare you for your future. that the time dictates that if we don't do something for ourselves as a people, we will be destroyed. And the aim of the enemy right now is to take us out.
We have God with us. We have Him as our guide. Yes, sir. We don't have to stand around here and ask the question, what must be done? Yes, sir. Get up and let's go and do something. Yes, sir. We cannot sit down. We cannot lay down. Yes, sir. We must get up. Yes, sir. And go to work.
Do you know what real joy is in life? Visioning something and bringing it into reality. That's real joy. Do you know what the next step in joy is? Behold how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell in unity.
Tonight, you need to fasten your seatbelts. We're going to hear from some of the greatest minds in the world. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of trusting our future and the future of our children into the hands of those who don't love us. I believe we need to revitalize black leadership.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Peace be unto you. Welcome to the Mind of an Entrepreneur show. I'm your host, Sajdah Wendy Muhammad. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I thought that today and Saturday, we would just do a little money psychology tune-up. That was my thought. Because sometimes we just need a little tweaking, right? We went over our goals and just goal setting, and we've been going into proper handling of people. And I think it's important that we start to dive into a little bit of just money psychology, mindset, and my goal with this is to help us find our money psychology as we are currently, and then help us to figure out where we need to go to tweak our own individual money psychology so that we can move forward and become happier, healthier, wealthier, and experience more love. Let me start by saying this, because oftentimes we get a little mixed up about money, and there's so many philosophies out here. Let me just say it this way. That despite from all the different walks of life, and we're going to talk about some of those. I made some notes while I was doing the intro about just the different walks of life. At the end of the day, we need money to move around, right? Money gives us choices. It gives us options. And you all have heard me say this before. And I'll remind us of this. It gives us options. Why? Let's say we have a healthcare issue, okay? And we have a certain type of insurance. Let's say we have a public insurance that offers us one form of healing. Well, if we have money, then we don't have to limit our healing to what the insurance companies will pay for. I hear people all the time where they think it's so cute that they got insurance and they go, well, my insurance is paying for this, my insurance is paying for that. But do you really know whether or not you're getting the optimal health coverage, the optical clinical coverage for whatever you're going through? When you have money, you can say, you know what, my insurance will pay for this, but I'm choosing to go to Cleveland Clinic, or I'm choosing to go to Thailand and have this special procedure or whatever. I'm going to do some alternative medicine. I'm going to do some stem cells. So I want to take a flight. When you have money, you can do that. When you have money, there's a difference in how you can educate your children. When you don't have money, then you may have to send them to a particular school that you're mandated to send them to in your neighborhood that might not be ideal. It may be subpar, and maybe you're not in a position to supplement their education. So If you have money, you can send them to a private school. They can go to, if you're in Chicago, they can go to Muhammad University. They can go to Chicago Lab School or any other school that's maybe a little bit more expensive. Maybe it's a transportation issue. When you have money, you have more options in what you can wear. Okay. Let's say you're going to prom and you don't have any money and you say, I got to order this dress off of, something online that may be a little bit less desirable than what I want. But if I had money, I would get my dress made. Okay. I think y'all get the point. It gives us options. It gives us choices, allows us to be able to do more. So I want us to first begin by not cursing money. There's a lot of people, I don't care about money. I don't want money. I don't like money. And then sometimes this is the craziest thing. We go to work all day and we slave over money, but then we say we don't like the money. So stop that. Okay. If you have a problem saying that I love money because you're afraid that somehow people are going to say that you love money more than you love God, it's just all propaganda designed to just keep us confused. Obviously, we don't worship money. It's obvious that money is not our God, but do we want those choices? Do we want those options? Do we want the money to build our community and introduce much needed goods and services into our community? Absolutely. So let's stop with I don't like money. So let's stop with this whole concept of hating money. The next thing I want to talk about is understand that our money psychology is as authentic as we are. Okay. So we all come from different backgrounds. Even if we come from the same background or even in the same household, you can have 4 children in the same household and each of them will pick different things that they end up focusing on that influences how they see money. It's just how life is, right? So I don't want you getting caught up on that either. Okay. So I'm just laying these kind of ground rules as we begin to talk about how we see money. If you come to me for a coaching session, one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to first help you to unravel your individual money psychology so that we can put together a plan that works best for you. Okay. And it's going to be a plan that's based on your goals and your desires. We got all these financial planners and advisors and people saying, well, you should do this and you should do that. Well, it's a little bit challenging to say that when you don't know a person's background. Like I can't tell you not to buy up the block, right? If you say, well, look, I'm nation building, I'm buying up the block, I'm buying up properties in the block. I want to be here. When people start abandoning properties, I want to be right here in the space where I can acquire things. Well, if that's your goal, then you should have one kind of plan. And I'm going to help you unravel your money psychology so that you can get to your own plan. Some people say, you know what? I don't really care. I just want to save money. I want to be comfortable. And we all should be working on a savings plan so that we got a cushion, got something to fall back on. Okay. But everybody has a different psychology. Okay. And sometimes your childhood psychology depends on your era and how you were raised. And I think what's really interesting is I've taken a lot of courses when I was going for my certification in emotional intelligence. And they would give us these generalizations that was based on white people. And I thought it was interesting. Like, for example, I pulled up some notes and they were talking about the 1970s, the S&P 500 was up, and in the 1950s, the stock market was stagnant, but there was all this technology, and in the 1960s, this and this was happening. And I said, well, that probably won't work in terms of dissecting money psychology for Black people, because in the 1950s, it was when white middle class was increasing and they were becoming very violent in terms of excluding us from economic development. Okay, so a Black person that grew up in the 1950s is going to have a different money psychology than a white person, or maybe even a Hispanic or an Asian person that grew up in the 1950s. You really got to understand what was happening in that person's culture. Okay, a Black person, for example, that grew up in the 1960s, somewhere after 1955, after the pivotal murder of young Emmett Till here in Mississippi, who was here from Chicago. After that, things became very challenging for Black people in terms of moving around. So is that kind of person going to be as excited about investing? What kind of mindset is that kind of person going to have psychologically? Somebody who had to fight through civil rights, somebody who, who maybe grew up on another side of the tracks that y'all not even thinking about when it comes to money psychology. Then you got people in the 70s babies, it's all about the party. 70s music, it was disco, it was funk, it was popping, it was the freak life. And so that's 70s people see things through those lenses. Then you got your 80s and 90s people that started to come of age in that era in the Black community during the crack epidemic. Some people are hustlers' children. And so they don't even have a concept of the value of money because they grew up with their family hustling. And so their family was hustling with the drug era, the crack era, all of that. So they see things differently. So you got to unravel all of that when you figure out who you are. Then you got the 2000s, the new millennials. What was that like? So all of that comes into play. Then within those communities, it's like, okay, what did you see? What examples of business did you see? I remember my aunt Jackie, she had a daycare and she was quite the entrepreneur and she planned it. And I remember just sitting in her office where she'd have a cigarette like hanging from the side of her lip and she'd be counting all this money from what the people paid her, I guess, for their daycare fees or whatever. And I would just kind of watch her. And that was my first, I would say, introduction to a woman in business, because prior to that, I associated making money with corporate, with business. In terms of, when I say business, I mean in terms of somebody going to a corporate job, like my parents did. But I remember the first time I saw her counting money, and she had a business, and I remember she collected Black art. And I remember asking myself, I wonder who told her about Black art and who told her it was okay to have Black art. And so these are questions that as a young girl, I started to answer because I had started to study business and I started to have a concept to where I understood the difference between somebody going to work and working a corporate job and then somebody having their own business and controlling themselves. And then I thought, man, how does she know what to put together? And I just remember thinking, sitting there and all these things going through my mind. I mean, I'd seen people hustle and make extra money on the side, but in terms of having your own business where you're taking care of your family, she had 5 children and, people that she was taking care of. I think I even worked there a couple of summers. So I started to get the concept of independent business and independent thinking in that way and understanding the differences. And I wasn't weighing it in terms of good or bad, but I was just seeing the difference. And I told that story to a client, And my client said, well, I grew up around pimps and hustlers. And she said, my uncle was a pimp. And so the way I saw him get money was the way I thought that's how you get money. And she said, my mother didn't work. She said, and my father was hustling. And so that's a different money psychology that she has to work on and unravel, because sometimes when we would start talking about money, her language would become very harsh, right? Like a person who's, got to get it out the street. And so we had to work to clean that up. Let me know in the chat if you understand where I'm coming from. Some people come from a poverty conscious mindset where their family never really had much, but they never strived for much. They just kind of accepted their lot in life, and they were like, okay, we're poor, we're not going to have much. Well, that's a psychology that we have to unravel. And it's important that you go back and take a look and think about, when was the first time you were introduced to money? What were the different points in which you had money discussions in your family? I just looked over, I have a bank, it's actually a piggy bank, that was my father's, and he would put quarters in there. And so we grew up saving money in a bank, like putting quarters in the bank and things like that. But what kind of money psychology does that give me? I remember my father sitting and talking with me about what to do when I had gotten a bonus at work. But I also remember my parents being very fly and dressing nice and having the best of the best and driving the best of the best and looking good. They were ballers before balling was popular. So what does all that do to your money psychology? Some people will say, well, you know what? My parents were very frugal. We didn't have a lot of new things. We didn't have a lot of extra, but my parents were able to write me a check and pay for my tuition when I first went to college. What does that do to your money psychology when you're getting older? So it's different for everybody. And I want us to get out of this mindset that we all have to be the same. We all have different goals that are aligned with our spirits and with who we are and what we showed up on the planet to do. Somebody said to me, I don't know why you would do a podcast and pay for a podcast and give away information for free and people don't give you anything back. And I said, well, because that's important to me. It's important to me that with all the blessings that I've had in the business world, that I give some of this information back. I've had a lot of amazing experiences crammed into a very young life. And I'm excited about it. I'm grateful for it. And so, yeah, I'd pay for a platform and put the podcast out and lay it out there, even if nobody was giving anything back. But I actually had a coach who said to me, the first thing you need to do is drop your podcast. And that if people don't pay for the podcast, you should stop doing it. And I said, well, then you can't really be my money psychology coach because you're not taking into consideration what's important to me. And as I explained to him why this podcast is important to me, I've been doing this since 2009. And I said, I was doing it when nobody was listening because I just wanted to get to record and get on tape all these blessings that I have and all this information. So I had to take that into consideration. I'm a nation builder. And so I'm all about putting myself in a situation where I can help others to solve problem and introduce much goods and services into the community. So that has to be built into my money psychology because it means something to me. You may say, well, you know what means something to me is I want to have a ranch and I want to have a farm and I want to have horses and cows and I want to plant vegetables. And so we would build that into your financial plan. Okay. Does that make sense? Let me know. I see Sister Sandra say, yes, different situations of society. That's right. And so I think we all have to take that into consideration. Where do we come from? What shaped and molded how we see money and who we are? And where are we moving now? Because if you meet with anybody who's helping you to dissect your money psychology, plan for your financial future, if they don't take into consideration where you came from, they're going to give you a plan of action that doesn't work for you. Okay. And so these things are very, very important. What did you see? Do you come from a blue collar family, or do you come from a white collar family? Do you come from a family of educators, or do you come from a family of attorneys? So we have to think about that, because all of that's going to impact how you see money. And then you want to think about and make a note about what things did you hear said about money growing up? Put this in the chat. Money don't grow on trees. Money is your best friend, and your best friend is your money in your pocket. My grandmother used to say that. Stop hanging around people that ain't got 2 nickels to rub together. What else? Think about it. I remember one time my grandmother was talking about men. And she said, if a man come to you with short pants on, leave him with short pants on. These are things that form your money psychology as a child. They form your relationship psychology. So I would have you sit down if you do a session with me, and we're going to write some of these things out. Put in the chat some of the things your mother, your family, your grandmother, what did people around you when you were growing up say to you or around you about money? Sister Betty said, yeah, money don't grow on trees. That's a popular one. And I've heard that before. That one doesn't penetrate me as much, because I can easily flip that in my mind and say, well, as far as I'm concerned, money grow on trees, and I got the tree. But some people had that ingrained in them. You know, the other one was, my grandmother was big on stop hanging around people that ain't got 2 nickels to rub together. Like I said, if a man come to you with short pants on, leave him with short pants on. These are the old, all these old school sayings. But this forms our money psychology. If you grew up and maybe you had a parent who was a shopaholic, and they went out and spent all of their money on clothes and stuff at the mall every weekend, that's going to shape your money psychology. If you grew up and maybe one of your parents was a drinker, and all they used to do is go out at night and drink, and they spent all their money drinking, and come Monday, Tuesday, they ain't got no money left. That's going to shape your money psychology. If you grew up and your parents stayed in the club, and that's all they did, that's going to shape your money psychology. So you got to look at your past, and you got to say, okay, what does the psychology that was ingrained in me growing up, what does that produce, and how has that affected me? And then when I fast forward, how do I take that and change that so that I now can reach the goals that I have as an adult? Right? Some people grew up and their parents had businesses. They grew up in the business all night. Maybe their family had a bakery, and they grew up in the bakery, baking bread, baking cookies, baking cakes. They were there all night, and they hustled and sold breads and stuff all day. What does that mean to you? And so this is how we begin to dissect our money psychology. Okay. Here's another thing that's important. I posted this on Instagram today. There was, I don't know where this brother was. I'm going to say maybe LA or Atlanta or something. And he was in a Ferragamo store. I was going to play it but I don't want to play it because he said his name on it and I don't want to bust him out. But it's posted on my Instagram. If you guys follow me, Sajdah Wendy Muhammad, you'll see it. And he went into a store, and it was a Ferragamo store, and he wanted to buy a belt. Apparently, he had been there with a friend of his or an acquaintance who was a celebrity, a rapper, and he was trying to go back to buy a belt. And I guess they racially profiled him, treated him really badly. And he literally spent maybe 10 minutes begging them to let him come in and buy the belt. This is money psychology, and this is bad money psychology, because we have to stop begging people to take our money. So I'll give you part of something that I adopt as my money psychology. I don't spend my money after bad energy. Okay. If I see something I like if I was on this podcast, here's a shameless plug, and I liked me, then if I see the Cash App, then I go on there and I do something. I was on a brother's podcast the other day, and he was doing such a great job at giving all this great information. I said, you know what? I want to attach my money flow to his good energy. But I won't go in a store if you don't want me there. If you don't treat me right and give me the service that I feel like I deserve, and I'm not a difficult person, but you can't ignore me. You can't turn your back on me and expect me to buy something and give you a commission, because I'm not going to let you associate bad behavior with my money. So my money psychology, the way it worked, I would never have begged that person to let me buy a belt. You don't want me? Guess what? Not only am I not going to buy from the store, I want the salesperson, whether they be Black, Asian, Hispanic, I don't care who they are, I want them to feel the loss of a sale. I want the company to feel the loss of a sale. I'm also going to call and communicate that, and I'll give you a bad review, but you're not going to treat me like that up in the store. I'm not going to stand there and argue with you. I'm not going to stand there and beg you. I'm not even going to give my money behind somebody that has bad behaviors. Let's say if I know somebody got a gambling problem, I know they got a drug problem, then you don't get to attach my energy flow related to money to your bad habit. I love you, but I'm just going to place you in a special place in my heart, but you're not going to attach my flow to it. So I look at money as energy. And whenever I'm dealing with something where I want to attract money, I need money, I got to work on a project. I was on a call this morning for a client, and we were negotiating a lease, and I'm always thinking about bringing good energy to that business concept. Anybody that I work with, they will tell you I do everything I can because I want good energy attached to my revenue stream. Okay. So I won't even take a client if I don't feel like I can give good energy behind it. Because if we're going to end up having an attitude and arguing, I'm not going to program my subconscious mind that I got to go through pain, I got to go through drama, I got to hurt myself in order to make what it is that I need to make. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, I've had some jobs that I didn't like, but it's always been in my mind where I had to tweak my mindset. I worked at Burger King in college, and I had to work late. I always made sure my mindset was, I'm doing this so that I can take care of myself. I created a certain thing. I had to walk back and forth. And I used to be afraid, because I went to school in Iowa, that, these white guys were always doing stuff, jumping out of bushes. And I used to have a box cutter. I used to put it up in my sleeve and walk back and forth. And then, I think at that point, my car was always on the blinks. But every job that I had, I made sure that I had the right mental psychology associated with it. And if I didn't like the job, then I would do what I had to do in that meantime. But I was always looking for something because I always wanted to find a way to raise my vibration. Okay. Sometimes when I was consulting, I'd get clients that I didn't really care for, that I didn't necessarily like, but I would do what I had to do to keep myself on the clients where the energy was good, where it was in a good location for me, where it was a place where I could just really learn and grow and practice my good money psychology. So one of the things that I dedicate my life to and I'm really focused on for 2024 is living a high vibration and an energy driven life. From the clothes I wear to anything I put on my skin, that I put in my mouth, all high vibration. Words that I speak, words that I listen to, what I read, what I do, all high vibration stuff. And that's important to me. So if I was working with somebody and they're working with my money psychology, you have to take that level of spirituality into consideration when you're helping me put together a plan. And you can't do me like this one guy said, first thing you need to do is stop doing that podcast because that's costing you X amount of dollars a month and you don't need to do it no more. And I said, well, no, that you're not the right person for me, because if you were, you wouldn't be telling me to give up something that was important and near and dear to me. So these are all things that are important as we begin to individualize our authentic money psychology. Okay. Some of us just have bad habits and we have to find a different way to talk ourselves through those habits so that we can stop doing them. Right. Some of us spend money on ridiculous things. Well, we have to work on that. Some of us do things because it makes us feel good. I was listening to earlier today, a woman, she was a financial advisor, and she was telling people, well, Black women, you need to stop getting your nails done and you need to stop getting your hair done. And I just disagree with that. And let me tell you why. Maybe I don't need to spend $1,000 on my nails. That's probably ridiculous. Maybe I don't need diamond crusted nails. Maybe I don't need $1,000 hairdo. But maybe it's important to me that I keep myself groomed because it makes me feel a certain way. It helps me vibrate at a certain level. And when I keep myself groomed, if I sit down and I'm sitting here and I look down and my feet are groomed and I know I'm groomed all over, it's going to give me a certain vibration. There's a certain energy and vibrational level attached, for me, attached to being groomed. It's just like having a clean house. There's a certain vibration attached to having a clean home, to having beautiful things that you can see and surround yourself with, even if you're in a small space. If you got a beautiful plant, if you got a beautiful piece of art, having beautiful things that you see. I love having beautiful fabrics and beautiful garments. These things are important to me and they're important to my vibration. So I don't know that I would, if I'm coaching somebody, to say to them, stop grooming yourself. Now, maybe you can't go to the high-end shop you was going to where they do nails for $200. Maybe you need to go get you a kit from Walmart or Target and do your own thing. But grooming yourself should be important. And for some people, it's just not. But these are things that I just want to say to you, because sometimes we get on these guilt trips because you listen to these people and they say, well, that cup of Starbucks that you drink every day at $8 a day, that's $40 a week. It's $160 a month. If you can't manifest $8 a day to go get you a Starbucks, you got bigger problems. Now, am I saying that you need to be wasting money? Do you need to eat out every day and go spend $30 a day? I'm not saying that. But don't cheapen yourself and be petty with yourself. A cup of coffee? Sometimes you might need that cup of coffee when you take that break from work because you need to go down there and reset. And if it costs you $5 or $8 to reset your energy, I think you should be able to manifest that. So these are all things that I just want us to be mindful about, because the conversation about money gets so emotional for people. People get embarrassed about it because we've heard so many things about what we should and shouldn't be doing. Folks got something to say about it. We can't even buy ourselves a gift because we feel guilty. We can't accept a gift from somebody else. And a lot of us don't give. We only give when we think we should, like maybe somebody's birthday or Christmas holiday. But in terms of just doing something nice for somebody, buying somebody a gift. How many of you all have been in a store and say, oh, you know what? This is nice. I'll buy this for so-and-so, so-and-so. That's okay. It's nothing wrong with that. I told you, I was on the brother's podcast the other day. He has such great information. I was excited when he put his Cash App up there so that I could pay it forward to him, because what you want is your money to interact with other good energy. And that's the way it's going to multiply. I pray for everybody that pays me as a client. If I see you book me as a client and I see it come through and the money is there, I say a prayer for you. If you hire me as a consultant to help you build your business and I send you the invoice and you pay me, I pray for that. I'm grateful. I'm grateful when I spend money. I'm at the grocery store today. I bought some grapes and some creamer for the coffee. I say a quick prayer because I'm grateful that I'm there. And so I want good energy always flowing and hovering and flowing through and around my money. When I put things in my body, I got water right here. Well, when I take a sip, it's a little prayer. Thank you. What am I doing? I'm associating things that I love with good energy. I'm not saying, damn, I can't stand water. I don't want to drink no water. I mean, we got to be careful. We got to be careful. Somebody sent a super sticker. Oh, that's sweet. Okay, thank you. I don't know who that is. Let me see. What is this? Joey Boy. Okay. I don't know you, but thank you. So I just want us to be clear on that, because there's so much negativity out there around money. So you book that year-end session, and I'm going to say this to everybody, not just because I'm a coach, but everybody who cares about where they're going and their future, they should be booking at least one session with a coach before the new year starts. Why do I say that? I say that because you want to be able to see past your blind spots. Somebody's going to help you be able to plan something that maybe you didn't think of. Okay. Maybe you missed it. And so they may be able to help you. And what I try to do is I try to go into that person's mindset and say, what is it that I can do to help this person get to that next level? Because all you got to tell me is, hey, I'm stuck. I'm stuck here. Or I want to do more there, but I can't get past that point. And then I'm going to try to do what I can to help you open up. And these are important. We start talking about money psychology, because a lot of us are stuck because of how we grew up and what we saw. Okay. Couple of other things I want to share about money. I took some other notes here for us to talk about. Let's talk about this one. Money can not only easily lead to greed. Let's talk about that one. If you find yourself being a greedy person, if you find yourself only liking people based on whatever amount of money they give you, if you find yourself obsessed with money, then we have to go back and unravel your money psychology so we can figure out where that comes from. Some of us are so insecure about money. Some of us, our money psychology has been driven by corporate America. I'll give you this as an example. I grew up in I would call it like a white collar training ground. I was one of those gifted students. I was in a lot of school programs. I was in a lot of programs from first to eighth grade. I went to about 8 different schools, different programs, different things. And when I look back at that, what they were doing was giving us advanced levels of being of service. And so we learn how to serve. We learn how to work. We learn how to be in business working for somebody. When I first got my first job, I already knew how to work. I already knew how to be a worker. And I'm not saying that to brag, because it benefits me now, because I've been doing it for so long. So when I set up businesses and design corporate structures, I kind of already know how to do it. But prior to that, it took a long time for me to break out of that in order to be able to make money on my own. Took a long time because I could go and make millions of dollars for somebody else, but I had a hard time figuring out how to do it for myself. And even to this day, I'm not as good at selling myself and tooting my own horn as I probably should be. I'm not afraid to sell like I used to be, but I used to be afraid to sell. I don't want nobody to see me selling. I would have been afraid to put a Cash App up here. I would have been afraid to charge for a service. So it took a while to break out of that. And it's because I have been programmed since a very young child on how to go into environments and work. And let me tell you the origin of that. For most of us that went to school in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, even the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, I would say, the Industrial Revolution, if you will, the industrial complex paid for our education. Why? Because what they wanted was for these students to be equipped enough to come out of those environments and go work right in business. They made room then for those of us who went to school in the 80s and 90s to be able to come out and get jobs in corporate after college. But they were still grooming us even in college and even in high school and grammar school, because they financed the education. And you can look it up. There are business people who financed education, especially in towns where, say, like a Detroit or Gary, Indiana, where you had plants there. It was nothing for people to go from high school to the plant. You know, in my case, I was groomed and I went to, I call it like a geek making school. I went to Iowa State, and at Iowa State, they groomed us to kind of be the geeks. It's sort of like, for this part of the country, like going to Purdue or University of Illinois, University of Michigan. There's a certain group of schools that produced the workers in the world. And that was one of those schools. University of Nebraska, University of Iowa, Kansas. Those schools in that area wasn't big on the arts. It was big on science and business and the technical aspect of business. So if you got a business degree from one of those schools, it was going to be a lot more of a technical business degree than, say, if you got it from Stanford. Okay. And Stanford's considered Ivy League, but it's just a different style of education. And so it took a while. I had to really study. I had to study emotional intelligence. I had to study myself. Because I remember just saying out loud, I have all the technical skills. I can problem solve my butt off. I can put together a multi-million-dollar business. This is nothing for me. But why is it that I can't do it for myself and I could do it for somebody else? And I had to dig into myself, and I understood that it was really just programming. Despite being a Muslim, despite learning, doing for self, I had to deprogram, I had to deconstruct that mindset so that I could be ready to move forward. And a lot of us are probably in those types of situations. And so this is what I kind of want us to do, is start tweaking. And so our homework for today class is to go back into your childhood and write down all the things that you think impacted your money psychology. And even don't even take it that far. Write down all the things that you heard about money, that were connected to money, that created how you saw money. Did every time you asked for something, did somebody yell at you and curse you out? Were you a person who got whatever you want? Were you a person who just had a lot of money? Was this a person who had no money? What was your money psychology? And so I want us to take and write that down. And then Saturday, for Sajdah Saturday Morning Coffee Talk, we're going to bring that, and we're going to talk about, I hope you all would be open enough that during coffee talks, we can start to dissect some of that. Let's dissect how we grew up. And it's okay. Just like my client told me, she said, look, she said, I grew up, my mother's brother was a pimp. And the money from pimping, he would give my mom, and plus my mom was on welfare. And then she said, and my father, who didn't live with me, he was a hustler. He sold drugs. And so she started talking to me about how that impacted her money psychology. I had another client who said, I just grew up on the block where there was just hustlers. And that's what I saw growing up. So the only people that I saw doing good were the people who were hustling. So we had to figure out, how does that money psychology impact you today? And how do we devise a plan, a thought process, a mentality moving forward? Some people come from very conservative parents where they are taught to be safe. And so they're very careful and they're very nervous. Well, those people tend to be people who don't step out of the box and maybe never have really made a lot of money, but can make a certain amount of money. One of the things that was ingrained into me as a child was that I could do anything I wanted to do. One of the last conversations my father had with me, he said to me, he said, one thing me and your mother never worried about you and Kevin, because we know y'all gonna be all right. And he said, and I know you can do whatever you want to do. That was what I heard growing up. So I never hesitated to go for the big stuff. And because I was groomed that way, Allah has always used me for big things, big projects, big stuff that other people wouldn't really understand, or that maybe couldn't even really help me with. I was always okay with that because I was taught growing up that I could do whatever I put my mind to. That became some of the basis of my money psychology. So homework, I want you to take a notebook and I want you to write out everything you heard about money growing up, everything you think impacted your money psychology. What kind of jobs did people have around you? Did they not have no jobs? How did they earn money? How did they spend money? Did they argue over money? Were they always upset over money? Were they happy over money? Did y'all have parties in the house when it was payday? Was everybody excited over money? What was the money psychology that you grew up with? And then let's come back Saturday for Sajdah Saturday Morning Coffee Talk, and let's unravel that. Some of you all are going to have to be bold on Saturday to put it in the chat. So let me see who we got in here today. Sister Nubia Latifa, walaikum salam. I want to see that money psychology on Saturday morning. Bring a couple examples with you and put them in the chat. We're going to deal with them. Good morning, Mother. Good afternoon, Mother. Happy Thursday. Good evening. Sister Sandra said, Assalamu alaikum, sister and family. Mo today, Thursday, winter solstice. Yes, ma'am. Winter solstice. Sister Sandra, I want to see that money psychology. How'd you grow up? What did you see it? How did your family look at money? Were they wealthy? Were they not? How did it impact you, and how do you think it's impacting where you are now? And I want us to go deep into that. Sister Betty, absolutely. Same thing, Sister Betty. Brother Victor, wa alaikum salam. Yes, same thing, Brother Victor. Sister Alita, been enjoying while driving. Okay, she says she was on the road. Sister Betty said everything makes money perfect sense. She put money don't grow on trees. Brother Ronald said greetings and peace. I want to hear from the brothers too. What's the money psychology? Brother Victor says some people grew up and never saw money. Some have no real connection to how money works. This is true. Some people don't. Nubia Latifa, why go somewhere you are not wanted and then pay? Oh my God, that right there. Now I will tell you I won't. My mother's in the chat, but I will tell you that if we went into a store and somebody disrespected my mama, they weren't gonna have a good day. Let me just put it that way. All right, y'all. Okay, so family, thank you so much. Thank you for the support. You see the Cash App going here. Let's keep the flow going. We got our homework for Saturday morning. We're going to have another day of money psychology. And if you guys have other subjects and I haven't done this in a while, we've been busy doing guests and introducing you to guests. When I was on radio in DC, I used to do a lot of these kind of subjects where we would talk about tangible concepts. And so I want to spend some time getting back into that. Some of you have given me feedback saying that you missed that. And so what I want to do is I want to honor your request. So let me know what's important to you, what kind of topics you want to talk about moving forward. You can always just DM me on Instagram or send me an email, whichever you want. But I just need you guys to support and to participate. All right. So support the completion of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad House. We are getting close to Savior's Day. And so we're working on how we're going to exhibit the house there in the NOI Archives exhibit, which is very exciting. Sister Sandra said, yes, I will. Thank you. Need this going into this project. Okay. All right. So we got projects coming up. We got a lot of things that we're doing coming up, many of us for 2024. And I want us prepared to do more. But what I don't want us to do is I don't want us to get our creativity going with these projects. And then we got bad money psychology over here. And when Allah takes you to other levels, I know this next level that Allah has been working with me on, I have learned so much about myself, and I've learned a lot of things about other people that I didn't necessarily want to know, and so I had to deal with that. So all of that's real, and all of that becomes part of our money psychology. All right, family, peace and blessings. Make sure you support the completion of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad House. We're still having our Savior's Day sale. Sponsorships are still available. We got a lot of sponsorship opportunities. We got a deadline coming up in the next couple of weeks. So we need y'all to get them sponsorships out there as soon as possible. All right. Love you all. And I'll see you all Saturday. Make sure y'all do your homework. Okay. Peace and blessings.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that history develops the springs and motives of human action, which display themselves most powerfully in the destiny of man. History actually motivates and stimulates human action. Sometimes you may not know what to expect from yourself, but if you only could read the autobiography of someone from among your people who has achieved, then that tells you what is possible to do. Black people in America have labored without understanding the realm of possibility for black people. And because we don't know what is possible for us as a people to achieve, we labor under the misconception that the accomplishments of Caucasian people should be our guide. And as a result, we keep on trying to be like them rather than trying to be ourselves. This is a result of being robbed of history.